All right, well, I am here at WBC, World Board Gaming Championships, and today I had the honor of sitting down with Wes Crawford, a designer who has a couple of games going. You have at least 3 that I'm aware of.
4 under contract.
4 under contract. Yeah. Wes has done a couple really cool solitaire games. Engine Thieves is one.
And that's 2-player also now.
Also 2-player, so it has a 2-player mode. This game, which is called
The Pursuit
Go ahead.
of John Wilkes Booth.
Yep. So this is the assassin of Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
Right at the end of the American Civil War, and you're on the hunt for him. So you are playing as Stanton and his crew,
The detectives.
who are out trying to find clues to figure out where he is gone.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So it is a solitaire design, but it also has a couple of modes. What are those modes that it has?
You can play solitaire against the Booth bot. You can play 2-player and it's cooperative, and you each are detectives and you're working together.
So each of you probably takes the role of one of the 2 starting detectives.
And then there might be additional detectives like you saw
as you
in the
got
game.
cards, yep.
And then you can do the most historically accurate, which is 2-player competitive. And in that case, you lose if Booth escapes. You both do. In fact, we say in the rules, because Seward purchased Alaska in 1867, that you're sent to Alaska. And to make it a real loss, and you're banished there.
Yeah. So you failed. It's like go to Alaska.
Yes. And otherwise, one person, it's a whole set of victory point system, and whoever does the best will be the winner and will get most of the reward money.
Yep.
And then we have, am I supposed to even say this? We're thinking of a way to have one player play Booth. So you could actually have a 3rd player, or the 2nd player could be Booth.
Yeah.
And so we're tinkering around with that.
Interesting.
And but this, when I say we, I should really emphasize too that Ryan Heilman, this is Ryan Heilman's idea.
Got it.
And we were talking one day, and we were throwing out ideas for games, and he threw that out. And then the very next day, I ran into Mitch Reed, and he said, "Wow, wouldn't it be cool if there was a John Wilkes Booth Pursuit game?" And so I said, "Wow, we got to jump on this, you know." And so we've been working on this. Took a lot of the systems from another game I designed and has not been published. And then we worked together.
And that game is off to my left, and it is called, tentatively, right? It's called
Terror Cell, Washington, D.C.
But you may be changing the Terror Cell.
If somebody goes for it, I think they're going to want it to be Homeland Security, Washington, D.C., and especially if it's 2-player.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that ever goes anywhere.
But a really neat little system where, as the player, you have these leads cards that are being flipped. You have 2 of those showing every turn. And with your police, your cavalry, and your detectives, you can have up to 3 or 4 if you keep getting them.
Yes.
But you are searching Washington, D.C., trying to do what?
You're trying to go to where the leads tell you to go, so you can pull clue chits out of the bag. And they have a range of 0 to 4, so might not even go anywhere. And then you would put them on the trail cards. And Booth, every 3 phases is a turn. And at the beginning...
So that's a trail card. There's a whole deck of those.
And this is prototype, obviously.
Yes.
And so it would tell where he starts on what trail, because if you see the board, we believed, the Union thought, rather, he could have gone down south towards Charleston, towards New Orleans, and out in the Caribbean, or down to South America, out west and out to Mexico, to Canada, 2 different ways, or to New York. And they were looking in all these places. And they were looking in all those directions. So in the game, he can do that. So that's the most unrealistic part if you're looking just for history. But all the leads are historical.
Okay.
So
they are tied or based on events or happenings or people that were involved.
Exactly. So with the 2 active leads you have at any one time, you want to move detectives there so you can get clue chits to put on the face down trail cards. And he's building a trail. He can end up anywhere. He can go from one trail to another. And if he ever gets to the 8th space on a trail, or if his 9th or 10th card, depending on how you play, trail card is put down, he's won. And you've lost.
So the interesting thing about the trail track is these clues, they do get a little bit easier as you close in on him.
And that's opposite of most games.
Right. They get a little harder, but this one starts out really hard.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out where he's going, and it's taking time, and you have to clean these up. But this first one's 18, next one's 10, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6. So it gets a little easier.
So it accelerates. The more you know. It's
you kind of
like
catch
at the
up.
beginning, they had no idea what was going on.
They were looking everywhere.
Yeah, and you know, they started piecing together pretty quickly. It was an actor named Booth.
Yep.
But beyond that, they you know, didn't know too much or where he could have gone or what. So the first clue, the first trail card is the hardest to find.
Yeah.
And then it accelerates a little bit, and by then he's already well ahead sometimes.
Yeah. So talk about the press your luck aspect to these different clues and how when you're pulling those chits out, what is your choice about? Because you're getting close on this one. You only need 1 or 2.
Exactly, 2 points.
Yep.
So we'll distinguish between clue points, which is 18, they're necessary here, etc., or clue chits, which are the actual pieces of cardboard
themselves.
So if, say you're on this one, and it's upside down, and it takes 8 clue points, and say you're at 6, and you get to pull 3 clue chits out of the bag, and they're ranging in value from 0 to 4, and not quite a bell curve, more skewed low.
Right.
Okay.
Lots of zeros I pulled.
Yeah, you pulled more zeros than were in there.
Got it.
But,
well, thanks for stacking the bag against me.
Yeah, exactly. Those were 8s cutting it. No.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, they what you can do is say, I only need 2. Well, maybe I'll play it safe, and I'll put the first 2 chits down and allocate the next for the next card.
The third one you're going to pull on the next card to get kind of a head start.
Yes,
and that's risky.
Because if you don't succeed in your first ones, so you pulled a 0 and a 1,
you waste the second
then you waste the other one.
And you might realize, oh, that was a 4. I totally wasted it. But that is an interesting aspect. I think any game that has that kind of, it's a choice, right? I'm really behind. I need to do it. The other thing I really liked was the police and the police die. Is that what we call this?
Yes, we have a die. This is late into the design of the game. Ryan thought this one up.
I like that.
Said,
that's neat.
Let's give police one more thing to do, because right now they're fodder for if you lose somebody.
Right.
And
because you can pull a bomb out of here.
Yes. Yeah, you can pull. We call it an ambush. So we're not. Otherwise, there's a lot of bombs going off. But they did worry. You know, historically, they thought Mosby's Rangers had probably infiltrated the city and were getting ready to take over.
And they're actually listed on the board right here.
On the board, yeah, because that's where they were hanging out.
Yeah. Lots of neat historical, I'm going to call them Easter eggs on the board. Things like that, and the people in the cards. Just, you've done your research on this, right?
You know what? I found a map.
Okay.
With a lot of the locations. This is 1865, Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Ryan dove into some deeper research on the map, and what I was calling the armory here, he found out had been turned into the hospital for a whole Civil War.
Got it.
So, you know, sometimes the detective will have to go to a hospital.
I had one that got injured.
There you go. But back to the die.
Yeah, we kind of jumped over that. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. But it's if he has a police with him when he tries to collect his clue chits, that you can roll a die if you want. And there's a 50-50 chance of adding 1 more clue chit or nothing, but there's a 1 out of 6 is an ambush. And something's going on here.
Give us a second, sorry.
Somebody won something or something.
Yes. I think there's a little alcohol involved here.
That never happens.
No.
But that's the only die in it, because there is, if you end up on the same space as Booth, you'll do a search function, and you have a whole mathematical calculation that we use a sequence of calculating deck.
This is really good because it keeps it straight, because it is rather involved.
You know who?
Stuka Joe.
Yeah,
right?
And he jogged me into doing that.
Yeah. He does a lot of very interesting player aids like that. Several of the games that I love, he's added things, and you get those, and the games are even better. But I do like this little deck of cards because this is a very involved process with a lot of DRMs and modifiers, and you're not rolling a die.
And then at the end, you don't roll a die because it's like a war game. You'd have all these modifications. You pull a chit out for you and a chit for Booth.
Yeah.
And
add that to the total. Yeah.
Then you have a single-page player aid, you're thinking, and that has the 2 tables on it and the sequence of play and things like that. There's a search table and a raid table.
Yeah.
Because if you find them, you still have to raid them.
Yep. And your raid power is going to come from the presence of cavalry units.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Detectives who are on the case. Some of those detectives will have bonuses to search, or so all that adds together. It becomes a concept of I've got these resources. How am I going to best use the resources at my disposal to find this guy? There is some luck involved because you're reaching in and drawing out these chits.
And the cards.
But
there's so much of that.
Oh yeah, but being in the right place at the right time, having the guys where that to me was my most favorite part of the game.
I want it to be a little chess-like.
Yes.
Because there are very few pieces on the board. You're usually going to have about 6 or 7 total pieces on the board, maybe 8 or 9.
Yep.
And
you got to be smart about where you put them.
So it's not like we're representing the whole Union forces.
Right.
We're representing the Union forces that became important for this chase.
Yes.
So
overall, I played this. It took about an hour, and that included the teach. And the game went to the very end. I really only lost because he pulled his last card. I was close. I'm not saying I was going to get it, but I was almost there. About an hour with the teach. Is that typical for a solo game?
Yes.
Solo play of this?
Solo play, I can do it in about 30 minutes usually now.
Sure, because you're familiar with the cards.
Exactly. So I would put on the box 30 to 60 minutes.
Got it. Okay.
If you play 2-player and have a little bit of analysis paralysis between, it's going to go over, but that's about it.
But to me, and I had a blast playing this, very much enjoyed playing it with you as well. One final question I have for you is, I know you have a relationship or some interactions with a famous character's descendant.
For this game?
Yes.
Well, when I was at Buckeye Game Fest,
I
actually took a break from demoing, just went to the restroom and stuff, and I got this call from one of the Blue Panther people. Get up here, you got to demo your game. Okay, I'm on the way. No, I'm talking about right now you have to come. And that was Dave Shaw was calling me. And I come there and there's this guy, and he has a big book in his hand, a thick book. And I said,
saw that because I was there.
I'd like to introduce you to Jerry. Yes, look at his last name, Mudd. And he said, my descendant, my great-great-uncle, was Dr. Mudd. And we played the game. I said, here's your ancestors' cards, and they have a lot of effect in this game. So that was a hoot.
It's kind of neat.
That was a hoot. And where's he live? Columbus, Ohio area. Well,
fascinating. But to me, that's one of the beauties of these historical games. There's actual people behind these events, people who made choices, who had families, who, and he made the comment. What was the comment he made to you about his ancestry?
He said it's in family lore. It's always been passed down that the Dr. Mudd, who was sent to prison for 4 years and very horrible, inhospitable
conditions,
weather and stuff. Okay, and he was brought back, and he didn't talk about it. He wouldn't talk about it with anybody in the family. His son did not talk about it. The grandson got very interested, and in the 70s, he did a whole lot of researching and wrote a book this thick, tracing them all the way back to coming to America and all the way up, and even showed me I think it was a letter from Jimmy Carter where they'd asked for a pardon and gotten a reply.
Sure, that's awesome. But that's history, right? And that's a part of what I think makes this game very, very cool and interesting. Lots of historical inclusion.
That's what I love about it. And that's
but I enjoyed it, right? I enjoyed playing it.
Good.
And I'm sure you've played this dozens of times.
Probably.
Do you still enjoy playing it?
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
Because so much can happen in this. And he can go anywhere on the board. He can start going in one direction and go off another, being Booth. and you constantly have to figure out the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because instead of moving, you can also draw Stanton cards. You can
Right.
go to Secretary of War Stanton
Yep.
for help, and he will sometimes give reinforcements or
Extra
other
detectives,
kinds of things, and
police.
they're all historical. All those
Yeah,
cards.
that's neat.
So
Yeah, this was a good part. I think I would have liked to have drawn more of these earlier in the game,
that can be beneficial.
but I very much enjoyed it. It's definitely a challenge. I think each game's going to be different because there's a lot of cards and you're only going to see half of them most of the time.
A lot of times, that's true.
Yeah, so when is this expected to maybe reach us?
Well, this is coming out through Blue Panther.
Yep.
If we hadn't said that before. I'm
Yeah, I
saying
don't
it
know that
now.
I had said that.
And Blue Panther, and they print also. So when they take on a game now,
Yep.
under their label, it's right now. There's none of this send it off to China, coming back stuff.
Right, they print it.
It's when they get the final files, they can print the next day.
Start selling it.
And
yeah.
we prove everything to
Yeah.
death. And if errata shows up with Blue Panther,
You change
what
it.
do? They just change it. The next copy is
And
going to be
print, yep.
perfect.
So do we think maybe by the end of
This fall
20
is
okay.
what I'm told.
in the fall?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, you always say something, and it always ends up a little later.
Right,
I don't know if
right.
anything happens early in the game industry.
Right.
But
It's
yes,
tough. It's a
it
challenge.
should be.
Okay.
I mean, I would say the way it's going, September, October, so
Okay.
maybe October,
So
November.
pretty
I don't know.
soon. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me, teaching the game, showing it to me. This is a very interesting and unique design.
Thanks.
I also think it's, you can do a lot of different things with it. Different modes is always good because you can play it in different ways. So
Exactly.
very much looking forward to the finished copy and playing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I am too. It's
Yeah.
going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm sure that's always exciting too when you
Yeah.
design a game and you finally get it done and see
Well,
the product.
I have 2 games that are coming out in the next 6 months.
Yep.
And I haven't, so I don't have any out yet.
There you go.
So yeah, this is an exciting time.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Wes. Thank you very much. Appreciate showing me the game. I appreciate you guys watching. I've been Grant for the Player's Aid with
Wes Crawford.
Wes Crawford. Good guy.
And Ryan Heilman
Is also a designer. And Ryan has done multiple games.
Oh, he's got his
He's got
fingers
3
in
or
a
4.
million
Yeah.
games.
So he's in it.
Great.
But really appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.